worked on consistent. Now, I always considered myself to be a consistent person, but what would happen was I would be consistent using discipline and willpower to maintain consistency. And then after a couple of days, weeks, or months, I give up because it's too much work. And consistent for me from the beginning. I remember when I accessed the database again, the first thing that came up was boring. That's the voice. That's the first thing I had. Boring. So we again did the work. I think the biggest shift came from a very strange place, actually, as we're working on again distribution of time. That examples, finding your examples, past, present, future. I found that in my university, I wasn't finding any examples of me being consistent. That was really strange. So I remember we were working in pods then, and we took some time off. When we met again, we're like, let's find out what's happening here. Why aren't you finding examples of you being consistent in university? So we found that there was some parts integration that needed to be done. What had happened was, like all of us, we learn consistency throughout school. So it's schedules are set for you. So it's like you never ever teach yourself to be consistent. They wake you up, you go to school, there are bells that are rung, end of class, break time, lunchtime. So it's like you don't teach yourself, it's done for you. So when I went to university and I had to now begin to be consistent for myself, I struggled. So I had these parts which I ended up calling twin parts because they came together. It's like they were joined. A part that was one side was rest and one side was routine. So I actually have them in my records as joined. So what was happening was my part of rest, the part that kind of helped me to deal with rest, was very well formed, and I listened to that part and I was very good with rest, but I had not been paying attention to routine. And I remember it actually took time for routine to speak up. a lot of time acknowledging routine and all that stuff. So when we finally integrated the parts, as in both the parts, and we did the work, parts integration, and when we finally integrated everything, what happened was I realized that it was actually a choice. I had a choice. I could create my routines. I felt like I was empowered. And what has happened? This is, I think, one of the biggest shifts for me. The next one is big, but they're all big anyway. So what has happened is these days, I don't even understand how it is. I'm not using discipline. I'm not using willpower, but I'm doing the things that I need to do.
Look at that.
And I'm doing them when I am supposed to be doing them or when I plan to do them. It's like I create a plan and I just start doing the work. And what happened was I had to kind of negotiate with the parts because rest was like, I will let you know when you need to rest from the routine. Because what was happening was I was doing one or the other, either doing the routine or resting. Sorry, had a long day, I've spoken a lot. So what happens is I actually feel the tug when I'm beginning to get tired, rest. So the parts are actually doing what it is they're supposed to do. And it's like, I just flow. It's just no willpower. I'm not forcing myself. I'm just flowing and doing the things that I need to do. And for my business, there are times when you're doing stuff, like when you're beginning to do stuff where it's more important than that you're consistent.
Sure.
You need to show up consistently. And because I've done that for about a year, it's like I'm now beginning to see the rewards of that. You know, when people ask like online, I need a coach, you actually find other people are referring to me, please reach out to Jennifer, because I have been consistent about content, consistent about talking about coaching related stuff, talking about life and all that stuff. So it has just amazing.
That's so good.
Yes, it is. Now the last one. Okay, am I talking too much?
No, you're doing great. I'm so excited to follow up with you a year from now, just in relationship to that transformation, because it's one of those changes in your generalizations that over time has a compounding effect. You know, and so I mean, all of them really do. You know, it's just I'm just really it's really exciting to me. Please go on. What's the next one? What's
So the next one is open. I actually wrote it down here. Open for me, it was being comfortable and willing to be visible, to be seen, and to be known. So that has been a major battle for me. I am extremely introverted. Most people do not believe it because I am bubbly when I know you. Or when I'm talking to one person, I am extremely bubbly. When I'm in public, I'll interact, but it's like afterwards I need days to just get my energy back because it's like I'm totally drained. So that was one of my biggest battles in coaching, actually realizing that I am going to have to be visible. Was difficult because you have to put yourself out there, you have to be seen when you're sharing the message. I felt like visibility was an invasion of my privacy. That's what I felt like it was. Like you're getting into my space and I do not want you in my space. So I started working with Open. There was nothing really, there were no sounds or I didn't hear anything. But I think the main thing that happened was when I was doing, we call it future pacing. That was again where the strangeness happened. And that's where I got my aha moment. So this was under the context, I'd call it the money context or business context. Okay. And I was working on Open. So future pacing, and then I went to future pace in money, like creating examples of me being open while I was relating to money. And I remember what really happens for me is I get statements or wisdom, I call it wisdom. What happened was a statement came up that said, because you are not open to receiving recognition, because I really hated that. You are not open to receiving money.
Interesting.
I was like, whoa.
Uh-huh.
Whoa. Because business, you need to make money. But it's like I had been, even stating pricing was a problem. You know, how are you going to make money when you can't state pricing? Because money is recognition for your services.
Wow.
Yeah. So that it was so freeing. I worked on a couple of other things. There is other stuff that I'm still doing with Open. I think actually I've now reached a stage where in 2 weeks, I'm actually going to give a talk, which is something that I would never, ever do in my life. Yeah, so I'm going to give a talk, and I'm continuing to do work. There have had to be a couple of reimprints, but for me, that was the beginning of seeing how being closed off was affecting my business. Now, I do content, I post videos, I do lives, and I'm like, I have no feeling of anything. I was actually working with a client. We had a discovery call. And when we were discussing the money, I stated my price with no feeling of anything. And she told me, I want to do what you're doing, because she's a businesswoman also. I want to state my price without looking scared or thinking twice. I want to state the fees like that. And I told her, we will work on it. But it has just, I'm a totally different person.
That's the best. That's the best. Oh my gosh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Now, you were mentioning you're talking a lot about time today, and let's say that somebody that is new to the self-concept practitioner. What would you give any advice specifically around time, or how to approach time, or what comes to mind when you think about time and transformation?
I think I'm also still learning, because I've just been in a session right now where I played with an example and actually found that while I was saying I was a certain kind of person, I am this kind of person, I wasn't doing it because I was taking it for granted. So I think the advice I would give is just to pay attention